Welcome back, my friends. Today, we are going to hear the inspiring story of Alphonso Davies. It is the story of a boy who began life far from comfort. He did not grow up in a rich home. He did not begin with fame, bright stadiums, or cheering crowds. His story began with uncertainty, movement, and a family searching for safety. Before he became one of Canada's most famous soccer players, Alphonso Davies was a child born into a world shaped by conflict. His parents had left Liberia during a time of danger and instability. They found safety in a refugee camp in Ghana. That was where Alphonso was born. A refugee camp is not an easy place to begin life. The ground can feel dry beneath your feet. The air can feel heavy in the afternoon heat. Families live close together. Children hear many voices around them. Some voices are hopeful. Some are tired. Some carry memories of places left behind. There is movement everywhere. But there is also waiting. Waiting for news. Waiting for safety. Waiting for a better future. For a young child, this kind of place can feel normal at first. It is simply the world around him. But for the adults, it means something deeper. It means life has already changed. It means home has been lost. At least for a time, it means the future is not clear. Alphonso's parents wanted something better for their children. That desire is one of the strongest parts of this story. Many parents understand it. They may not know exactly what tomorrow will bring. They may not have much money. They may not have power, but they carry one hope in their hearts. They want their children to have a chance. That chance came when the family moved to Canada. For Alphonso, Canada was a new world. The weather was different. The streets were different. The language, the schools, the food, and the rhythm of daily life were different. For any child, moving to a new country can feel strange. For a refugee family, it can feel even larger. You are not only changing your address, you are rebuilding your life. At first, a new country can feel both exciting and lonely. There are new sounds in the classroom, new signs on the street, new faces in the neighborhood. Sometimes, people speak quickly. Sometimes you understand only part of what is being said. You watch carefully. You listen closely. You learn little by little. That is why Alphonso's story connects with English learners. Many learners understand what it means to enter a new language. At first, every sentence can feel like a challenge. You may feel slow. You may feel unsure. You may worry about making mistakes. But each day, if you keep listening, you become stronger. Alphonso also had to adapt. He had to learn a new place. He had to find his own path. And like many children, he found joy in play. Soccer became more than a game. It became a place where he could move freely. It became a language he could understand with his body. Even when words were difficult, the ball made sense. A ball does not ask where you were born. It does not ask how much money your family has. It does not ask whether your English is perfect. It only asks one thing: can you play? For Alphonso, soccer opened a door. On the field, he could run. He could feel the cold air on his face. He could hear the sound of shoes touching grass. He could see open space ahead of him. In those moments, life became simple. Chase the ball. Help the team. Try again. Move forward. This is one reason sports can change a child's life. Sports give structure. They give confidence. They give a place to belong. A team can become like a second family. A coach can become an important voice. A field can become a classroom. Even when there are no desks, no books, and no written tests, Alphonso was not just playing for fun. Slowly, people began to notice him. They noticed his speed. They noticed his energy. They noticed how quickly he moved across the field. But talent alone is never enough. Many children have talent. Not every child turns talent into a life. The difference is often discipline. You must arrive again and again. You must train when you are tired. You must listen when someone corrects you. You must accept that you are not finished. You must keep growing. This was the beginning of Alphonso Davies' journey. Not fame, not trophies, not bright lights. The beginning was a family searching for safety, a child learning a new country, a young boy discovering that a soccer field could become a place of freedom, and this is the first lesson from his story. A difficult beginning does not decide the end of your life. Sometimes, the place where you begin is not the place where you will stay. Sometimes, the thing that looks small, like a child running after a ball, becomes the first step towards something much larger. Alphonso Davies did not know yet where soccer would take him. He only knew the joy of playing, but that joy would soon become a path, and that path would lead him from local fields in Canada to some of the biggest stadiums in the world. After arriving in Canada, Alphonso Davies entered a new chapter of life. For many people, Canada can look peaceful from the outside. Wide roads, cold winters, safe neighborhoods, public schools, parks covered with snow. But for a young refugee child, a peaceful country can still feel confusing at first. Everything is new. The language sounds fast. The classroom has different rules. The food is different. The weather can feel shocking. Imagine a child who was born in the warm air of Ghana, suddenly facing the long cold of a Canadian winter. The wind touches your face. Snow covers the street. Your shoes make a soft crunching sound as you walk. It is beautiful, but it is also strange. Alphonso's family settled in Edmonton, Alberta. Like many families starting again, his parents worked hard. They were not building a life from comfort. They were building from hope. They had to find work. They had to care for their children. They had to learn how a new country worked. This kind of beginning is not easy. It takes patience. It takes courage. It takes many small decisions every day. For Alphonso, school became part of that new world. He had to listen, learn, and adapt. Some children can feel shy when they do not understand everything. Some children stay quiet because they are afraid of saying the wrong word. But slowly, a child begins to find a rhythm. One word becomes a sentence. One friend becomes a group. One familiar street becomes home. And then there was soccer. Soccer gave Alphonso something powerful. It gave him a place where he did not need perfect words. On the field, he could speak through movement. A pass was a sentence. A run was an answer. A goal was a shout of joy. The field was open. The rules were simple. The ball moved, and he moved with it. When he played, people could see something different in him. He was fast. Not just a little fast. He had the kind of speed that changes a game. When he ran down the field, defenders had to turn quickly. Teammates had to look up. Coaches had to pay attention. The sound of the ball against his foot was sharp and quick. The grass moved under him. The cold air filled his lungs. He looked like a child who belonged inside the game. But talent needs a place to grow. Many talented children never get the chance. They may not have money for programs. They may not have rides to practice. They may not have the right shoes. This is why community matters. In Alphonso's life, community helped open the door. He played through local programs that gave children a chance to enjoy soccer. even when their families did not have much. This is one of the most important parts of his story. Alphonso did not rise alone. Of course. He had talent. Of course. He worked hard. But behind many success stories, there are people who help at the right time, parents who keep going, coaches who notice, volunteers who care, friends who encourage, a community that says, "This child deserves a chance." As Alphonso grew, his soccer dream became more serious. The game was no longer only a fun activity after school. It became a path. He trained more. He learned more. He listened to coaches. He learned how to use his speed with control. Speed is powerful, but without control it can disappear quickly. A great player must know when to run, when to stop, when to pass, and when to wait. For English learners, this is a useful lesson too. Learning English is not only about speed. Some people try to speak fast before they are ready. But real progress comes from control. You listen. You repeat. You practice slowly. Then your confidence grows. Like soccer, language improves through repetition. One day, the thing that felt difficult begins to feel natural. Soon, Alphonso's ability took him beyond local fields. He joined the Vancouver Whitecaps system. One of the important steps in his young career, this was a big change. It meant more pressure, better players, higher expectations, more travel, more responsibility. He was still young, but his world was becoming bigger. Imagine being a teenager and realizing that your childhood dream is becoming real. The field feels larger. The coaches speak more seriously. Every training session matters. Every mistake teaches something. There is excitement, but also pressure. You want to prove that you belong. Alphonso kept moving forward. The boy who once played on local fields in Edmonton was now stepping into a professional path. Canada had given his family safety. Soccer had given him purpose. And now, his own work was beginning to open doors that once looked impossible. This part of his life shows a second lesson. A new country can be difficult at first, but it can also become the place where a new dream begins. Alphonso Davies did not forget where his family came from. But in Canada, he found space to grow. He found people who believed in him. He found a game that helped him express who he was. And soon, that game would take him to a level few people expected. The young boy from Edmonton was about to become one of the youngest and most exciting players in Canadian soccer. Alphonso Davies was still very young when his life began to change quickly. In Vancouver, soccer became more serious than ever before. He was no longer only a talented boy playing in local games. He was now inside a professional system, surrounded by coaches, older players, and young athletes who all wanted the same dream. Everyone wanted to rise. Everyone wanted to be noticed. Everyone wanted a chance. For a young player, this kind of environment can be exciting, but it can also feel heavy. The field is the same size, but the pressure feels different. Every touch matters. Every run matters. Every mistake feels louder. You hear the coach calling instructions from the side. You hear the ball strike the grass. You hear your own breathing as you run again and again. The game you love is still there, but now it asks more from you. Alphonso had something that people could not ignore. He had speed, energy, and courage. When he received the ball, he did not look afraid. He attacked space. He moved forward. He made defenders uncomfortable. Sometimes, one fast run can change the feeling of a whole match. The crowd leans forward. Teammates begin to believe. Opponents begin to worry. But growing as a footballer is not only about running fast. At the professional level, every player has talent. Some are strong, some are smart, some are calm, some have great technique. To survive there, Alphonso had to become more than a fast young player. He had to learn timing. He had to learn patience. He had to learn how to make better decisions under pressure. This is an important lesson in any dream. At first, talent opens the door. But after that, discipline keeps the door open. A person may have a gift, but the gift must be trained. The gift must be shaped. The gift must be tested. Alphonso kept learning. He trained with older players. He listened. He watched. He made mistakes. And then he tried again. Soon, he began playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps' first team. This was a major step. He was still a teenager, but he was already playing in front of real crowds. Imagine that feeling. Bright lights above the field, supporters shouting from the stands, cameras following the action, the grass under your boots, the ball coming toward you. And in that moment, you cannot hide. You must play. Many young players dream of becoming professional athletes. But when the moment arrives, the dream can feel frightening. It is one thing to imagine success. It is another thing to stand on the field and prove yourself while thousands of people are watching. Alphonso did not become perfect overnight. No one does. But he showed something important. He showed that he could handle the moment. As he played more, people outside Canada began to notice him. Scouts watched. Clubs paid attention. His name began to travel. This is how football works. A good performance does not stay in one city for long. Coaches talk. Agents talk. Fans share clips. Suddenly, a young player from Canada can become interesting to clubs across the world. Then came one of the biggest moments of his career. Alphonso Davies made the move to Bayern Munich, one of the most famous football clubs in the world. For many players, Bayern Munich is not just a team, it is a symbol of the highest level. It has history, it has pressure, it has stars, it has expectations that never sleep. Moving from Canada to Germany was another great challenge. Once again, Alphonso had to enter a new world, a new country, a new language, a new football culture, a new level of competition. The training was faster. The decisions were sharper. The standards were higher. At a club like Bayern Munich, it is not enough to be promising. You must improve quickly. You must show that you belong. At first, some people may have wondered if he was ready. He was young. He came from a country not always known as a football power. He was entering one of Europe's strongest clubs, but Alphonso had already lived through change before. He knew what it meant to adapt. He had moved from a refugee camp to Canada. He had moved from local fields to professional football. Now he had to move from promise to world-class performance. One of the most powerful parts of his rise was his change in position. Many people knew him as an attacking player, but at Bayern, he became famous as a left back, a player who defends and attacks from the side of the field. This role matched his speed and courage. He could run back to defend, then sprint forward to attack. He could cover large spaces. He could turn defense into danger. Fans began to love his style. He played with confidence, but also with joy. When he ran down the side of the field, it felt as if the game opened in front of him. The crowd made a low rising sound, like a wave beginning to move. Defenders stepped backward. Teammates looked for him. He was no longer just a young Canadian with potential. He was becoming a player the world wanted to watch. This stage of Alphonso Davies' story teaches another lesson. Sometimes, life asks you to start again more than once. A new country, a new city, a new team, a new level. Each time, you may feel unsure. Each time, you may wonder if you are ready, but growth often happens when comfort ends. Alphonso did not reach the world stage because everything was easy. He reached it because each challenge prepared him for the next one. Canada gave him safety. Vancouver gave him opportunity. Bayern Munich gave him the highest test. And step by step, the boy who once ran on Canadian fields became one of the most exciting football players in the world. As Alphonso Davies became known in Europe, his story also became bigger in Canada. For a long time, when many people thought about Canadian sports, they thought about hockey first. They imagined ice, skates, sticks, and cold arenas filled with loud fans. Soccer was loved by many people in Canada, especially by immigrant families and local communities. But it was not always seen as the main national sport. For years, Canadian soccer wanted a bigger moment. It wanted a face that young people could believe in. It wanted a player who could make children look at the screen and say, "Maybe I can do that too." Alphonso Davies became that kind of player. His rise was not only important because he was talented, it was important because of what he represented. He represented a new Canada, a Canada made of many stories, a Canada where a child born far away could grow up, find a chance, and wear the national shirt with pride. When he played for Canada, he was not only playing for himself, he was carrying the dreams of many young players, many immigrant families, and many people who had waited to see Canadian soccer stand taller on the world stage. Wearing the national team shirt is different from playing for a club. At a club, you play for fans, coaches, teammates, and a city. But with the national team, the feeling is deeper. You play with a flag on your chest. You hear the national anthem. You look around and see teammates who come from different cities, different backgrounds, and different families. But for that moment, they all share one name: Canada. Imagine the sound inside the stadium before an important match. The crowd is loud, but there is also tension in the air. Flags move above the seats. Cameras turn toward the players. Children watch from home with wide eyes. Parents sit beside them. Some fans have waited many years to see Canada compete at the highest level. Then the whistle blows, and the dream becomes real. For Alphonso, playing for Canada gave his personal story a national meaning. He was no longer only the boy from a refugee camp. He was no longer only the fast young player from Edmonton. He was no longer only the Canadian star at Bayern Munich. He was also one of the faces of Canadian soccer. One of the most emotional parts of his journey came when Canada returned to the Men's World Cup stage. For many Canadian fans, this was not just another tournament. It felt like history, opening a door. The country had waited for this moment for decades. A new generation of players had pushed Canada forward. They had worked through pressure, doubt, and difficult matches. Alphonso was one of the brightest symbols of that rise. When he scored for Canada on the world stage, it became more than a goal. A goal can last only a few seconds, but the feeling can last for years. The ball moves, the player jumps, the net shakes, the crowd explodes, and suddenly, millions of people remember where they were when it happened. For Canada, that moment felt like a message. We are here. We belong. We are part of this story now. But this part of Alphonso's life was not only about celebration. It also showed pressure. When a player becomes a national star, people expect more. Fans want every match to be special. Media asks questions. Children look up to you. Every injury becomes news. Every mistake becomes discussion. Every performance is watched carefully. Fame can be bright, but it can also be heavy. This is why Alphonso's story is useful for English learners and for anyone with a dream. Success does not remove pressure. Sometimes, success brings more pressure. When people believe in you, you may feel proud, but you may also feel afraid to disappoint them. The important thing is to keep going with humility. Keep training. Keep learning. Keep remembering why you started. Alphonso's journey with Canada also shows the power of representation. When children see someone who looks like them, or someone who comes from a difficult background, succeed in a big way, something changes inside them. Their dream becomes less distant. It becomes possible. They may still have to work hard. They may still face obstacles, but now they have an example. A young child in Canada can watch Alphonso Davies and think, he started with very little, but he kept moving. A newcomer family can watch him and think, this country can become a place of hope. A young soccer player can watch him sprint down the field and think, one day, I want to wear that shirt too. This is how one athlete can become larger than the game. Not because he is perfect, not because he wins every match, but because his story gives people a picture of possibility. For Canada, Alphonso Davies helped soccer feel closer, stronger, and more emotional. He helped turn the national team from an idea into a real source of pride. He helped show that football in Canada was not only growing, it was becoming part of the country's future. And this is the fourth lesson from his story. Sometimes, your dream begins as something personal. You only want to play. You only want to improve. You only want to help your family. But if you keep going, your dream can become something bigger. It can inspire people you have never met. It can give hope to children you may never see. It can become part of a national story. Alphonso Davies carried Canada's football dream with speed, courage, and joy. But the deeper meaning was this. His success showed that a dream can travel across countries, across languages, and across generations. It can begin in uncertainty, grow in a new home, and one day stand proudly in front of the world. Every great sports story has two parts. The first part is what people see, the speed, the goals, the stadium lights, the shirts with a player's name on the back, the interviews, the cameras, the cheers from the crowd. But the second part is deeper. It is the part people do not always see, the family journey, the early fear, the cold mornings, the small training fields, the quiet moments of doubt, the days when success still feels far away. Alphonso Davies' story matters because it has both parts. On the outside, he became a football star. He played at the highest level. He wore the shirt of Canada. He became one of the most exciting players of his generation. But inside the story, there is something even more important. There is the story of a child who began life with uncertainty, then found safety, opportunity, and purpose. That is why many people connect with him. His story is not only about football. It is about movement. It is about a family leaving danger behind. It is about starting again in a new country. It is about learning, adapting, and growing. It is about what can happen when talent meets opportunity. In many ways, Alphonso Davies represents the dream of a new beginning. A new beginning does not erase the past. It does not make every problem disappear, but it gives a person space to breathe. It gives a child a classroom, a field, a coach, a friend, a chance. And sometimes, one chance is enough to change everything. Think about the sound of a simple soccer ball, a soft kick on the grass, a bounce against the ground, children running after it, laughing, calling to each other. At first, it looks ordinary, but for some children, that ball becomes a door. It leads to confidence. It leads to discipline. It leads to a team. It leads to a life they never imagined. For Alphonso, football became that door, but his legacy is not only measured by trophies or matches, it is also measured by the hope his story gives to others. A child from a newcomer family can look at him and feel seen. A young athlete in Canada can look at him and believe that soccer is a real path. A person learning English can listen to his story and understand a simple message. You do not need a perfect beginning to build a meaningful future. This message is powerful because many people feel behind in life. Some people think they started too late. Some people think they do not have enough money. Some people think their language is not good enough. Some people think their family background is too difficult. But Alphonso's life reminds us that a beginning is only the first page. It is not the whole book. Of course, success is never guaranteed. Not every child who loves football will become a professional player. Not every dream will become famous. But that is not the only meaning of the story. The deeper meaning is effort, growth, courage, the choice to keep moving, even when the road is not simple. This is also a useful lesson for English learning. Maybe today, your English listening feels difficult. Maybe some words are too fast. Maybe you understand one sentence, then lose the next one. Maybe you feel frustrated, but learning is a journey. You do not need to understand everything the first time. Listen again. Repeat slowly. Notice one new word. Then another. Then another. Small steps can become a long road. Alphonso Davies did not become great in one day. He did not move from a child in a refugee camp to a world-famous player in one easy jump. There were many steps. A move to Canada, a local soccer field, a youth team, a professional club, a new country in Europe, a national team, a world stage. Each step prepared him for the next one. That is how progress works. One step may look small when you are taking it, but later, when you look back, you may see that it was important. A practice session, a new word, a difficult day, a person who believed in you, a moment when you wanted to stop, but continued anyway. These small moments build a life. Alphonso's story also reminds us that success should not make us forget where we came from. The most inspiring people are not only successful, they are also connected to their story. They remember the people who helped them. They understand that their journey can give strength to others. When Canada watches Alphonso Davies, many people do not only see a footballer, they see a symbol of possibility. They see a story of courage, family, migration, and hope. They see the power of a country that can give a child space to grow. They see a young man who turns speed into a gift and a difficult beginning into inspiration. So what can we learn from Alphonso Davies? We can learn that life can begin in a hard place and still move toward light. We can learn that opportunity matters. We can learn that talent must be trained. We can learn that a new home can become the place where a dream grows. And we can learn that one person's journey can inspire millions of people who are still waiting for their own chance. His story is not finished. He is still writing it with every match, every challenge, and every new chapter. But one thing is already clear. Alphonso Davies is more than a football star. He is a reminder that hope can run fast. It can cross borders. It can survive difficult beginnings. And sometimes, it can carry the dream of an entire nation. If you enjoyed this story, write one simple sentence in the comments. You can write, "I learned that a difficult beginning does not decide the end of your life." Keep listening, keep learning, and I will see you in the next story.